I still remember the moment my phone buzzed, a notification lighting up the screen. It was a message from Alex, my husband of 10 years. A message that shattered everything I believed in. I don't love you anymore. I want a divorce. From now on, all contact will go through my lawyer. That was it. No explanation. No apology. Just a cold, calculated decision delivered through a text. At first I thought it had to be a cruel joke. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. Alex was supposed to be at work. Or at least that's what I had believed. There had been no warning signs. No late-night arguments. No distant behavior that hinted he had checked out of our marriage. We weren't perfect, but I had always thought we were solid. So why was he ending it like this? I called him, no answer. I texted back, no response. Confusion twisted into panic, then morphed into anger. A decade of marriage, and this is how he chose to end it? Text. Not even the decency to face me? I took a deep breath, forcing myself to think logically. Maybe he was going through something. Maybe this was a mistake. But something about his wording felt off. The fact that he immediately cut off all communication and directed me to his lawyer wasn't just cold. It was deliberate. My gut screamed that there was more to this. Without hesitating, I dialed his lawyer. The line rang twice before a deep, polished voice answered. This is David Green. How can I help you? I cleared my throat, trying to steady my voice. David, it's Kelly. Alex just sent me a text saying he wants a divorce. You're his lawyer, right? Silence. A pause that stretched too long. A hesitation that made my skin prickle. Then a sharp exhale, like something had just gone terribly wrong. Mrs. Carter. David's tone shifted, now tense with something that hadn't been there before. Are you saying Alex has already filed for divorce? A chill ran down my spine. Shouldn't he already know? I don't know, I admitted. All I got was a text saying it's over and that all communication needs to go through you. Another pause. Then suddenly, God damn it, Alex, you idiot. David wasn't yelling at me. He was yelling at someone in the background. Papers shuffled. A chair scraped against the floor. Something was very, very wrong. When he spoke again, his voice was lower, urgent. Listen to me carefully, Kelly. Have you signed anything? Any documents? I shook my head even though he couldn't see me. No. Nothing. Just the text. Good. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. And for the love of God, don't talk to Alex. My heart pounded in my ears. What's going on? Why are you yelling? A door slammed on the other end of the line. Muffled voices. Then David's voice returned, quick and serious. I shouldn't be telling you this, but your husband has been keeping secrets from you, huge secrets. If he divorces you before you find out, he keeps everything. My mouth went dry. Find out what? What are you talking about? David sighed heavily. Look, I have to go, but I'll say this. Alex screwed up big time. If he sent that text before I could finalize everything, then you still have a shot at getting what you're owed. What am I owed? I pressed, but then the line went dead. I stared at my phone in disbelief. I had expected legal formalities, maybe a cold, professional explanation. But this. Panic. Fear. Secrets. My marriage wasn't just over. It was a trap. And now I needed to find out what Alex had been hiding before it was too late. My fingers tightened around my phone, David's words echoing in my mind. Your husband has been keeping secrets from you. If he divorces you before you find out, he keeps everything. I read Alex's text again. It felt different now, less like a cold goodbye and more like a carefully calculated move. 10 years of marriage, a life built together, and in a matter of minutes, it felt like I didn't even know the man I had married. My instincts screamed at me to call him, demand answers. But David, the lawyer, had warned me against that. Instead, I needed information. I paced my living room, heart pounding, my mind racing back over the last few months, searching for anything I might have missed. Alex worked in finance, managing investments. He had always been secretive about money, but I had never questioned it. Until now. Had he been hiding something all along? I needed to talk to someone who might have answers. Scrolling through my contacts, I hesitated before pressing call on the one person who might know something. Lisa. She had been Alex's assistant for years, practically running his office. We weren't close, but she had always been kind to me. More importantly, she knew Alex's work habits better than anyone. The phone rang once. Twice. Then she picked up. Kelly. Her voice carried surprise and a hint of wariness. Lisa. Sorry to call out of nowhere, but have you talked to Alex today? A brief pause. No, not really. Is everything okay? I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay steady. He texted me. Said he wants a divorce. Out of nowhere. Told me all communication has to go through his lawyer now. Lisa sucked in a sharp breath. Oh. That was not the reaction I was expecting. You knew, didn't you? I pressed. Another silence. Then finally, I had a feeling something was going on. He's been acting strange for weeks. My stomach twisted. Strange how? Secretive, she admitted. Meetings off the books. A lot of wire transfers to an account I didn't recognize. And last week. She hesitated. What? I urged. I overheard him talking to someone. I don't know who. But he said, once she signs, it's all mine. She won't even know what she lost. I froze. When she signs, it's all mine. A cold wave of realization crashed over me. This wasn't just about a divorce. Alex was trying to cut me out of something big. I ended the call and went straight to Alex's home office. Most of his work had moved online, but he still kept physical files in a locked drawer. The lock. I knew the code. Dropping to my knees, I punched in the numbers. A soft click and the drawer slid open. Inside, neatly stacked financial statements, legal documents, bank records. My hands shook as I shuffled through them. Then I saw it. A statement for an account I didn't recognize. $8.6 million. I blinked, sure I had read it wrong. 8.6 million. And the account was in Alex's name alone. Frantically, I flipped through more pages. The pattern was clear. He had been moving money into this account for over a year, slowly siphoning assets, hiding wealth. And now he wanted me to sign divorce papers before I ever found out. My mind reeled back to David's reaction earlier, his immediate panic. He had assumed I knew. But I hadn't. Not until now. Now I understood why David had freaked out when I called. He knew I was entitled to half. Alex had probably told him I was out of the picture. Clueless and compliant. Except now I wasn't. And I sure as hell wasn't going to let Alex get away with this. I grabbed my phone, my fingers tightening around it. This time I wasn't calling Alex. I was calling David back. And this time he was going to tell me everything. I stared at the bank statement in my trembling hands. $8.6 million. A fortune I had no idea existed until now. Alex had been planning this for over a year, slowly siphoning money into a secret account. But it wasn't just the money that made my blood boil. It was the betrayal. We had built a life together. A marriage. And he had been planning to leave me with nothing. Not if I had anything to say about it. I had spent years working, loving, and supporting Alex, and all the while he had been planning his escape. My jaw tightened as I grabbed my phone and called David Green back. This time I wouldn't let him dodge my questions. The line rang once before he picked up, his voice tense. Kelly. David, I said, my tone ice cold. You told me not to sign anything, not to talk to Alex. You panicked when I called. Now I know why. Silence. Then a sharp exhale. You found it, didn't you? My fingers clenched around the phone. The secret bank account. Oh yeah, I found it. And I assume there's more. So, David, you better start talking. Kelly, listen. No, you listen. My voice cut through his excuses. Alex tried to pull this off quietly. He thought I wouldn't notice. He planned to leave me with nothing. And you, I took a steadying breath. You knew all along, didn't you? A muffled curse slipped from his lips. Then in a low voice he muttered, Fine. You want the truth? Here it is. Alex has been preparing for this divorce for over a year. Moving assets, shifting money offshore, setting up legal barriers to keep you from touching a single cent. I swallowed hard, fury burning in my veins. Why? I demanded. Why not just be honest instead of stabbing me in the back? David sighed. Because he knew you'd fight. And if you fought, you'd win. I sucked in a sharp breath. So let me guess, I said bitterly. He was going to drag this out in court until I got tired, accepted some small settlement and walked away. David hesitated. Then reluctantly, that was the plan. My jaw clenched. That son of a... Not just that, David continued, his voice grim. He was planning to tell the court the money was his alone. That he earned it without your help. Meaning, legally, you wouldn't be entitled to a single cent. A wave of nausea rolled through me. So he was going to lie. David didn't answer. He didn't have to. I exhaled sharply, forcing my mind to focus. Alex thought he had already won. Thought he had played me. But now I had the upper hand. David, I said carefully, you're his lawyer. Why are you telling me this? A dry chuckle. Because your husband is an idiot. That caught me off guard. He doesn't listen, David continued. I warned him this was illegal. I told him that if you found out it would blow up in his face. But Alex thought he was untouchable. That you'd just cry for a few weeks and sign the papers. He sighed. I guess he forgot who he married. Despite everything, I smirked. That's where he made his biggest mistake. David hesitated. Kalia, I shouldn't be saying this, but if you play your cards right, you could ruin him completely. My grip tightened on the phone. Go on. You have something stronger than money, David said. You have proof. The bank statements, the transfers, the hidden funds. If you take this to court, the judge will see right through him. Meaning Alex won't just lose the money. He could face legal consequences for financial fraud. Fraud. I closed my eyes, letting that word sink in. I had been ready for a fight over assets. But this was bigger than I had imagined. A slow, calculated smile spread across my lips. I had loved Alex once. But after everything he had done, I would make sure he paid for it. I had always played fair. Always believed in doing the right thing. But now I was ready to win. I hung up the phone, my pulse pounding. David had just confirmed my worst fears. Alex hadn't just blindsided me with a divorce. He had been planning it for over a year. Moving money, setting up legal traps, manipulating the system to leave me with nothing. He thought I wouldn't fight back. He thought I wouldn't find out. But now I knew everything. And I wasn't going down without a fight. I sat on the floor of Alex's office, hands shaking as I spread the documents before me. Bank transfers. Offshore accounts. A hidden $8.6 million fortune. This wasn't just financial betrayal. This was fraud. I had to be smart. If Alex found out I had these documents, he'd try to cover his tracks. I grabbed my phone and snapped photo after photo, making sure I had copies of everything. Then I sent them to 3 different places. My email, a secure cloud storage, and Lisa. Lisa had been the one to warn me about Alex's suspicious behavior. She might not have realized the full extent of his deception, but I knew she wouldn't betray me. Just in case, I sent a message along with the files. Lisa, I need you to hold on to these. If anything happens to me or my access to this information, send them to David Green immediately. Her reply was almost instant. Kelly, what the hell is this? Alex was hiding this much money. Yep. And now I'm going to make sure he pays for it. A long pause. Whatever you need, I've got your back. I exhaled slowly. Good. Because I was about to start a war. Alex was holed up in his company's penthouse downtown, avoiding me, thinking that by the time I received the official divorce papers, I'd be too numb, too drained to fight. He had underestimated me. I grabbed the bank statements, stuffed them into my purse, and drove straight to the penthouse. The doorman recognized me and let me in without a second glance. Alex was in for a surprise. My heart pounded as I rode the elevator up. When I reached the door, I didn't knock. I used the key card he had forgotten to take back. The second I stepped inside, I saw him lounging on the couch, drink in hand, looking utterly relaxed, like he hadn't just tried to destroy my life. His eyes flicked to me, twisting with annoyance. "Kelly," he said, setting his glass down. "What the hell are you doing here?" I stepped forward and tossed the stack of bank statements onto the table. He glanced down, then back at me, his face paling. "Where did you get these?" I crossed my arms. "You really thought I wouldn't find out?" He let out a forced laugh. "Kelly, you don't understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly," I cut him off. "I understand that while I was being a loyal, loving wife, you were funneling millions into an account under your name alone. I understand that you thought you could file for divorce, leave me with nothing, and walk away scot-free." His jaw clenched. "This is none of your business." I laughed, cold, sharp, humorless. "None of my business? We are married, Alex. That means half of everything you have is legally mine." His eyes darkened. "Not if I can prove the money was mine alone." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "And how do you think a judge will react when they see these?" I tapped the papers. "Transfers made during our marriage. Counts you never disclosed. Money you were legally required to share." His face twisted with rage. "You have no proof that I have plenty of proof." I smiled. "And more importantly, I have David." He froze. For the first time I saw fear in his eyes. "David wouldn't." "Oh, but he did." I smirked. "Your own lawyer told me everything. How you planned to lie. How you thought you could drag this out in court until I gave up." Alex's hand clenched into a fist. That idiot knows you screwed up," I interrupted. "And he knows I have a legal right to half of everything you tried to hide." For a moment he said nothing, just stared at me. Then his lips curled into a sneer. "You think you've won?" His voice was low, dangerous. "This isn't over, Kelly." I picked up the papers and stepped toward the door. "You're right," I said, meeting his glare. "It's just getting started." Then I turned and walked away, leaving him to drown in the mess he had created. Alex thought he could intimidate me, that the sneer, the venom in his voice, would scare me into backing down. But he didn't realize something. I wasn't the same woman he had underestimated all these years. This time I was coming for everything I was owed. I walked straight into David Green's office. He looked up from his desk, rubbing his temples. "Kelly," he sighed. "I figured you'd be back." I dropped a folder onto his desk, the one filled with evidence. "You told me I could ruin him," I said coolly. "Let's make sure that happens." David's eyes flicked down to the documents. He slowly opened the folder, scanning the pages. I watched as his expression hardened. "You've been busy," he muttered. "I don't waste time." He let out a breath, shutting the folder. "All right. Let me be clear about what this means." He leaned back, steepling his fingers. "Alex isn't just looking at losing money, he's looking at possible fraud charges." I nodded. And, David continued, "if we take this to court, he's screwed. Not only do you get half, but the judge will take into account his attempts to hide assets. That means he could end up paying you more than just 50%. I smiled. "Good." David hesitated. "Kelly, Alex is desperate right now. He's not going to go down without a fight." I leaned forward. "Neither am I." That afternoon we filed a legal motion against Alex. Not just for divorce. For fraud. For financial misconduct. For intentional deception. He thought he could play me. But now it was my turn to destroy him.